guys, my name is Emily, welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be sharing with you the books that I read between April 5th and today. So the day that I got my wisdom teeth taken out and the 12 days it took to recover. I'm still not fully recovered. I still feel pretty shitty and I sleep a lot. I managed to read a lot of things. They are largely YA because I discovered very quickly that I got super tired super fast. Concentrating on things for long chunks of time just didn't work. I would read for like an hour and then sleep for 3. Here is my, I don't know, beginning of April wrap up. The first thing that I read was They Both Die at the End by Silvera. Now this was something that I saw floating around on BookTube quite a bit. This story is set in a world just a step off from our world. There is technology in this world that is able to tell you the day that you are going to die. And if you've signed up for this last call, you can get notified about the 24-hour period in which you will die. It's a flipping narrative between two boys who have both received their death day call. And so Mateo and Rufus find each other on this Last Friend app. So it's an opportunity for two people who are dying to get together that day and to just do lots of fun, adventurous last things before they pass away. And so it is the story of their friendship, of Rufus bringing Mateo out of his shell. It was super fun. Super fun. They both die at the end. I don't want to say it's light because it's about them dying and it's reflecting on living, but it felt like a really light read. Like when I saw the title, I was expecting it to be a super heavy, like downer of a read, but there were so many uplifting moments in which the two sort of help each other to make sense of the way that they've lived their lives, the relationships that they've had in their life. Overall, it was hopeful, even though they both die at the end. So I ended up giving this 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. I enjoyed it. The next book I have here is Of Fire and Stars by Audrey Coulthurst. Coulthurst or Coulthurst? Diphthongs. Pronounce it however you feel. So this is the story of a princess whose name I've forgotten because the book didn't super make an impact on me. I was also pretty drugged up on painkillers. It's not a good sign that you can't remember somebody's name. Oh, Denna. Denna and Mare. Okay, right. So Denna is a princess who has come to do some sort of alliance marriage with Mare's brother. So she's sort of imported into this other country, it's not her own, and she's getting used to the customs and the ways of the space that she's in now, and part of that is taking riding lessons. She has never ridden a horse before, but it is quite common for the country that she's marrying into for people to ride. So she ends up taking riding lessons with her betrothed's sister, Mare. And the two of them developed this friendship and relationship, and that was the only good part of the book. The queer romance of two princesses was just great. It warmed my heart. The parts with them together were great. I needed all of the book to be that, because the half-baked magic outlaw, Bluebird pointing out a book in the library, the like secret meeting of religious magic folks in weird temples, Mare being a spy, murder of various political figures, a sketchy, creepy advisor guy, like all of this extra shit either needed to be fully fleshed out and better developed. Turn this into a duology, draw out the romance, but develop the rest of the world around it. Because the magic was cool, the political things were interesting, but very quickly I realized this wasn't going anywhere. Like, I was just getting this like sprinkling of other things to sort of trick me into, not trick me, but to sort of pad the queer romance. And the queer romance was the great part. So either we need to edit out all the other shit and this is just a queer romance between princesses, 5 out of 5 stars, or we need to split this and develop more things. So as it sits, I gave this 2 stars. It was okay. It had a lot of potential. I loved the most important part, which is the queer relationship and like the friendship, but the rest of it fell flat for me. The next book I read is One of Us is not lying. I still talk a little funny, like my mouth is all pinchy and swollen still. So this is a story of 5 students who go into detention. There is a car accident in the parking lot, and while they're looking out, one student takes a drink of water out of a cup from the detention center, detention hall, goes into anaphylactic shock, and dies. It looks like somebody has tried to kill Simon, the boy who's died. And so we end up diving into the lives and the secrets and the lies that the other 4 students have told. It reminds me so much of Pretty Little Liars, Gossip Girl, and The Breakfast Club. Like, the standout pieces of all of those stories sort of coming together in a fun, fast-paced narrative. Now, obviously, because I just cited 3 things that are very similar to it, it's not super original. It's not groundbreaking by any means, but it is a fun, engaging story. If you're looking for a fast-paced read that doesn't really require much of your brain, because I think this was day 3 for me, it was still engaging enough and like kept me going enough that I enjoyed it. I was surprised by the ending, but I was also like very, very doped up. So maybe if you read it with a clear head, you'll be like, oh my god, it's obvious from the outcome. But I was surprised, I enjoyed it, and I gave that 4 out of 5 stars just for the experience and like the enjoyment I experienced while reading it. The next book I read was ambitious for me, and it's the only piece of adult literature, the only piece of nonfiction on here, and that is On Writing by Stephen King. It's part memoir, part writing guide, so we're looking both at sort of like the incidents, I guess, that King himself cites as sort of shaping him as a human, and that we can, or he sees bleeding over into his writing, and then also just a practical guide on writing. It's a fast read. I like Stephen King's writing style. His voice comes across here. I super enjoyed this. The cool part about reading this and then going forward with the rest of these books is I now have all of these like little tips on good writing. So I found that the next 2 books that I read especially, but continuing on from there, I was especially critical of the writing and especially paying close attention to the quality of the writing. And like the thing that stands out to me is the dialogue and the ways in which people write dialogue. King has this pet peeve about adverbs in dialogue. You should be able to tell from the context of the conversation how these people are speaking. 5 out of 5 stars, loved this, marked it up, will definitely return to this many times in the future. If you haven't read it, you should, just as a Stephen King fan or as a person who's interested in writing. I feel like you can probably use this both for definitely creative writing, but it's not horrible advice for academic writing either. So because of that book, when I went for my reread of Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertali, I was paying especially close attention to the ways in which she wrote dialogue. I became super impressed with Albertali's writing. Like, Simon, a closeted gay teen, is being blackmailed by a boy at his school. Simon, at the same time that he's maintaining this online relationship with another closeted boy at his school, is having to deal with this weight of being blackmailed, this weight of being exposed. Like, he knows that his family will support him, but he's not ready to make this part of his identity public. The first time I read it, I devoured it, I sat there all in one day. I don't even think I cried when I read this the first time, but this time, because I was slowed down by the drugs and like my desire to look at an example of writing. So King talked about good writing. Well, now I was looking for an example of good writing. Does this live up to his tips of good writing? And I feel like in many ways it does. The dialogue was really great, really realistic. Very few adverbs, if any, in terms of the dialogue. Taking my time and slowing down, I found myself a lot more emotionally moved by this story. I then fell down a YouTube spiral watching cast interviews. I'm very excited to see the movie. I hope the movie doesn't let me down, because rereading this, I have fallen in love with the story even more than I did the first time. So I hope it lives up. And I of course gave Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda 5 out of 5 stars. Then I read Autoboyography by Christina Lauren. So this is the story of Tanner, a bisexual high school senior who is closeted, not within his family, but within his community. He lives in an LDS. An LSD Mormon community would be very different. He lives in an LDS, a Latter-day Saints Mormon community. Everybody in his community is Mormon, is Christian, is like super squeaky clean, super polite, and also super anti-gay. So Tanner came out to his parents and like had a boyfriend when he was living in a more liberal part of the United States, but when his family moved to Utah and into this community, his parents sort of stressed the importance of, I guess, keeping this part of him very close and being very careful about who you share this information with if you want to function within this community, which is largely church-guided. Problem is, Tanner develops a crush on his teaching assistant, Sebastian, and Sebastian is gay for him too. And it is like the cutest, sexiest, sexually tense relationship that really unpacks Christian faith. I spent a fair share of my time at a Baptist summer camp, not because I was Baptist, but because I had Baptist friends, and the camp outside of the religion was a lot of fun. There's a moment in the book where somebody's like, I felt the spirit move in me or something like that, and like the person who says it is so confident in their faith and in their beliefs that it just sounds natural coming from them. And that's one of those moments that I've had at this Baptist camp where you like have someone very casually say to you like, I really enjoy hanging out with you. I feel like you're my sister in Christ. And like me saying that now, I'm like, ooh, this sister in Christ, that just, it feels weird coming from my mouth. But like it was so genuine in that context. I very much identified with Tanner being this sort of outsider who appreciates everything that's good about these like really religious spaces that bring youth together, that get them doing charity, that get them doing service, that get them playing fun games and just enjoying each other's company. And sometimes it's kind of nice to step into that like little Christian bubble and just get to play innocent games with people. I ended up identifying with Tanner a lot more than I thought I would, and I just really enjoyed the story. It was cute, it was fun, it was light, but also got me sort of reflecting on my own experiences, and it was really refreshing to see a YA book with a character that's so strong in their faith. I thought that was super cool. I really enjoyed it, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. The next book I read I have had sitting around for quite a while now, and that is All the Bright Places by Jennifer Niven. It's the story of Violet and Finch. So the two meet at the top of the school's bell tower, where both of them are standing on a ledge, looking down. For Finch, it's sort of research to see what method of suicide would be the best. So he's standing at the top of the tower to sort of envision what actually committing this act would look like and feel like. So he's getting this perspective on a potential way to kill himself. Violet is up there because she has this deep moment of grief following the death of her sister. So she and her sister were in a pretty serious car accident. They went off a bridge. Her sister died. She did not. And so she's pulled away from her friends. She's become very isolated. Her world has become very small. And she's at the top of this tower in like this moment of distress. Who knows whether or not she would have jumped, but Finch turns around and sees her and talks her down off the ledge, but because she used to be popular and some students at the ground have sort of noticed that the two of them are up there, and he's the school oddball already, he sort of loudly shouts down like, oh, thank you for saving me, thank you for talking me off the ledge, you are the greatest, Violet, and like she's upheld as this hero for talking the oddball Finch off the ledge, and the two of them end up working together on this project to explore their state. Finch is undiagnosed in his mental health, but I feel like it's fairly safe to say from what he sort of describes and what we witness, he's probably bipolar, because he alternates between these periods of mania in which he needs to do all the things, run everywhere, swim in every ocean, dress as all these characters, be super loud and wacky and impulsive and creative and musical, and periods of what he calls sleep, where he makes his world very small. He gets inside his closet and he sleeps. I have no mental health, counseling, diagnosis, doctory abilities, but I feel like just as an outsider looking in, that's probably where he fits to a certain degree. So right now, Finch is awake, and he is wide awake and doing all the things, and slowly his like awakeness and manic enthusiasm for everything begins to pull Violet out of her depression and help her grieve and widen out her world again. Her world shrank down so small. She stopped writing, she lost her sisters, she pulled away from her friends, she pulled away from her boyfriend, she stopped going on car rides anywhere, so she walked or bicycled everywhere. Her world became very narrow, and working with Finch on this project brings her out. I think you need to know going into it, trigger warnings for suicide and for just trauma. Like, Finch spends a lot of time researching various ways to kill yourself. If you're not prepared to go there, don't go there, because it is a dark book. But in between all of this darkness, there is joy and there is hope. It hit me in the feels. I was so captured into this story. I couldn't put it down. I absolutely devoured this book and I loved it. And if you're prepared to read something like that, like, I would recommend that you check it out because it was really, really good. I did give this 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. I've been talking for over 30 minutes now. Let me know in the comments down below if you have read any of these, if you are interested in any of these. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon. Bye!